Today's guest is a poet and the founder of Free Poets Collective. He is also host and founder at the Listening Tree Talk Show and the Goodwill Ambassador of the Woman Scream Festival. Not one to rest on his laurels, though. He is also the host and creator of CCIS, which stands for Connecticut Cryptid Investigative Society. So without further ado, please welcome the multi-talented Colin Haskins to the Claws Corner. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll even throw in the extra penny, make it an even 60. To me, it's worth it.
Oh, it's free.
Money is no object for this.
Come on. Well, I'd love to take you out. I'd love to take you out.
We will definitely be talking off the air. I love this stuff, and I would love to go. The other question I had regarding Bigfoot is, has anybody ever found a Bigfoot corpse? And if not, why not?
Oh man, that's a really good question. So again, I think you're dealing with, I think there are some. I think there are some really good bones and evidence, and I think that culture of ridicule is just going to come and make sure it's no longer in your possession and you're too ridiculed to even follow up about it. Not quite like a Men in Black thing, but I think there's certainly government agents that will get you to shut your damn mouth, right? Like possibly like someday the MDC is going to come knocking on my door and be like, cut the bull crap, you know?
You know too much.
We're supposed to be boring, you know? No, man, screw that. You go to Seville Lake, get yourself a nice pair of binoculars, go from where that castle is, look across there. They got themselves a nice little beach over there with a sand landing. You just know on 4th of July weekend, there's like an employee picnic where they get to go access that kind of thing, but we never could. No. And I don't go into their property, at least not that I'm aware of. But I think you're dealing with something very smart, and you just should be treated, accordingly.
So you're saying they find the dead and then they treat it with respect, and like humans, they have a burial.
I think that, and all right, so I'm obviously out in the woods all the time. Now I'm living on a new farm, and I almost brought it to Paracon. There's a deer skull where I decided to put my chickens. And I looked at the deer skull. I was like, wow, this would be really cool to bring towards Paracon. Because Dogman really likes to associate with agriculture and farms and cattle and humans, whereas I think Bigfoot, likes to be out in the forest. But so bones, leftover corpses. There are certainly people that claim that they have this stuff, and it's so close to human DNA, so hair is not going to do it, but bones might. Mm-hmm. Bones in the wild. The reason I didn't bring the skull is because it had been partially eaten. Other animals, skunks, possums, especially porcupines and raccoons, all animals need calcium. It's very hard to find in the woods. And so what will happen is that bones left in the wild are gonna be eaten just for their calcium by the smallest of animals, by slugs and things like that. So bones tend to disappear faster than you think they would. Mm-hmm. Horns last longer and teeth last the longest because enamel lasts very long in the wild. So I'm watching this bone get eaten and just sort of watching, I'm here every day putting my chickens away and the bone's going away and the teeth are not. And then the teeth will just sort of fall into the ground. In the wild, I've seen one deer carcass. I've seen one donkey carcass where there was a juvenile bear eating it. And I'm out there all the time. I'm where the hunters are. And there just is not a lot of carcasses in the Northeast, period. So then you take an even more scarce animal, one that's could maybe be in the dozens of hundreds here, maybe like, we'll say like 1,000 in Connecticut. Well, so then they're going to be spread out and they're going to be in their habitat. And if they're intelligent and there's a carcass left or a hunter shoots one or something, it'd be really bad for your trip out. I would say, don't do it. Mm-hmm. You're probably going to then find their grumpier side. But if they can access their carcass, they're gonna make it disappear, and then the animals will do their rest and eat all of fur is gonna go for the bird's nest, they're gonna take it, and of course the flesh, that's all coyote stuff, and then the bones are gonna be for your smaller animals that need the calcium, and it's gonna not last very long. So you would need to find a Bigfoot carcass pretty darn fast.
That is the best explanation I've ever had, given that. And I've asked that question to other people, and they just, well, this and that. That is the most plausible, most believable, and it makes so much sense because, just like you, I love the woods. I grew up in Wolcott, and that was all woods, but I love hiking. I go all over the place, and you're right. I've never seen a bear carcass. I've never seen a deer carcass, and they're all over the place. But that definitely makes a lot of sense. And I want to talk about your experience though, because I like Wickham Park in Manchester. For me, I like it because I'm a big Frisbee golf fan. I love the course over there. But you have a different reason why you like Wickham Park. Tell me about that.
Well, that was where I had my like upright encounter. So where I was living at these Park View luxury apartments, and believe me, there was no view of the park, and it was for damn sure wasn't anything luxury about it. But what there was is I was on Budding. The parking lot had been sort of reclaimed from a cliff that just dropped down into the Hockenham River, which is a tributary of the Connecticut River. And there would be a lot of bald eagles there, especially in February. And that's when I had my encounter. So I'm just out there and I'm like really getting fascinated. I love agricultural products. So I'm like, you know what, I want to try making my own maple syrup. So I got all this stuff. I educated myself in the process, and I make some really nice grade A amber syrup. So I got my taps out there, and the thing about the taps is, though when the sap is flowing, Richard, it's going to flow every day. You can't just say, oh well, I'll get it in the morning, and because it's a sugared water, it's a fermentable sugar, it's going to ferment really fast on you, so all your effort is going to be sort of thrown out if you don't get to it. So as a construction worker, I would get out a little late, and that's when you want to go. You tend to check your pots a little bit before dark, and in February that's what, like 1:30 in the afternoon, because for some stupid reason we turn the clocks back, which I hate. We got to stop this is nonsense. Lock the clocks, move them forward, lock the clocks.
Yes, I'm with you on that one too.
So I'm coming home from work, I'm checking my taps, and I'm sorry, I want it to be a detailed encounter. So we're in a park, and wrap your mind around this. We're in a parking lot in East Hartford, okay? This is not where most people have their Bigfoot encounters. Actually, it might be. Now I get my reports, they're from places just like this. So where I decided to get my pots was just past the parking lot, and the river was down there. But the river, like any kind of crappy parking lot, is going to have a bunch of busted glass, all kinds of gnarly stuff. They just moved these big boulders. It was a sheer drop. It was maybe 20, 25 feet. But it was so sheer and so much debris, you'd have to be a knucklehead, to try to attempt walking down to the river from there. You definitely would get cut or hurt. The only kind of person would do that is somebody that would eat skunk cabbage just out of the wild like that. So
I can't imagine who would do something crazy like that.
I had enough sense not to. So yeah, I'm like midway in the season. It's getting on March. Yeah. And by the end of March, your taps are gonna run dry, depending on how dark of a syrup you want. It's seasonal. So not to get into that, there's people that are much better at that than I am. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, who the heck is that? As I'm coming in, it's getting on dark. I got my buckets, I'm tired. So I'm just, I'm a construction worker. I'm just like, I can't believe I survived another day of this labor for underpay. I'm like, I'm walking towards my spot, and I'm like, who the heck is that Neanderthalish guy looking like my cousin Tubby staring into my pots? And as I approached closer, and I'm kind of reliving this in my head, This thing looked in my pot, looked at me. I'm like, that ain't, I don't know what that is, you know? And it's sort of stunned to see me there, and it seemed really interested in my maple buckets. Like, what the heck is going on? When you do that, there's all kinds of ants. You wouldn't, even in the snow, the ants come up. So biology is attracted to this little bit of sap coming out of this tree. They love it. This thing lets out this godforsaken howl, you know, like my ex trying to serve me divorce papers, you know, so it's screaming down the hill. We kid because we love, right, Richard? You gotta have fun.
Exactly.
It's gotta be fun.
I love fun.
Right. So this thing's hooting and hollering, smashing up. There's all these mountain sumac trees. It's just smashing them things. I mean, just like going, just all like, it's just out of here. It splashes into the Hockanum River. And the other side is another apartment that had the same sort of cliff, and it just went up and over. It's smashing trees and howling until it just dissipated off onto the Hockanum Linear Trail, which is awesome. Nice catch and release trout there. But that was my encounter. Now that would have been back, 2001, and doing this was the furthest thing from my mind. The only thing I wanted to do was go kick back and you know, have a beer and call it a night and get ready for the morning. And so I still, you could see it. I mean, it's just like, I'm still in shock. When I go back and think about it, it's like, wow, that was a really close up, really in your face encounter. I mean, I saw this thing's face, you know, I saw the eyes get wide, and, you know, that sort of like, now it's getting mad sort of look. And it's either going to go through me or down the hill. And thank God, the easier way out would have been through me, but thank God it decided to go down the cliff.
And how tall do you think it was?
Oh man, 9 foot easily.
Wow.
Easily. Because I was able to, of course I had it. And I'm like, after my initial shock, I'm like, well, screw this. I'm going to get my maple sap. You know? I'm not losing another jug, 5-gallon jug of sap, you know? So I was able to sort of see from me reaching up, there was a hemlock tree right next to this maple tree that had still green. So I was like, I had to reach all the way up to where its head was. So, you know, and I'm 6 foot. Yep. Add another 3 foot, and that's a big guy.
Did it have an offensive odor? Because I hear a lot of people when they encounter Bigfoot that they say it smells really bad.
It did not. I did not encounter anything like that. I've heard this a lot.
Yeah.
No, the stinkiest thing out in the woods is when I bring my dog with me, and he just got sprayed by a skunk. But I mean, listen, it makes perfect sense that these animals take. Now let's imagine you're in a drought and you've just killed some deer and you get this blood all over you, and it's going to go rancid, and that's actually going to nature sort of give you like odor camouflage, because that's kind of a common smell. Stink is very common in nature.
Oh yeah.
And, so I mean, it's weaponized. You know, the skunks and other animals use it. Snakes use venom. So biologically, it makes sense. You get down in Florida, you know, where all the crazy animals are. I don't even think there's any native species left in that poor state. Except the skunk ape. And look at that name, skunk ape. So you're right. Bigfoot is associated with stink. None of our reports, none of our personal encounters have come across that. So I just can't. It would be very easy for me to just sit here and say, "Oh yeah, that's a common thing." We investigate all kinds of stuff. We have never encountered this phenomena.
Well, I guess they're much cleaner in Connecticut.
We have a lot more water here. Might explain that.
They're much more conscious of their hygiene, personal hygiene, which is good.
Well, now our natives would have called them, especially I was at Mohawk Mountain earlier, and the tribes there would have called Bigfoot the stone giants. I hinted on this, the Ganasqua. And what they would have done is rolled in sap and
Ah,
then pine sap and then rolled in gravel, like small rocks. And the natives, when they encountered stone giants here in Connecticut, they're grumpy. The native stories talk about abductions of children and things like this. They're not welcome. But so the stone giants, the natives would throw their spears and their arrows at them. And because they were embedded with stones and pine sap, the arrows would just break. You throw a piece of flint against some granite, and believe me, it's going to break. Quartz and those things that they would have chipped away to make the arrowheads with were soft stone, able to be sharpened. But of course, with the advent of the bullet with the white man, that's no longer a proper defense. So to getting back to the smell thing. So if you're covered in sap and this sort of armor, that might seal it in. Pine sap, of course, smells really nice. We use it as a cleaner today. Pine salt, pine solvent, you know. So yeah, honestly, we have not come across that. But I do believe that it is. I mean, there's so many reports of people describing that. I do keep, sort of not my eyes out, but my nose out for that. And there are, we're in the bog of Mohawk Mountain. There are some funky pitcher plants and things that throw off some nasty funk to get the flies to go into them so they can consume them. They're carnivorous plants and they give off a funky odor.
oh, yeah. Now, do you think
Dog.
creatures? I was gonna say, do you think creatures like the abominable snowman are like a cousin or related to Bigfoot? Just different name because it's in the colder area.
The real I see very strong similarities. The real difference would be some of the photographs of the footprints show 3 to 4 toes. And even some Bigfoots and some dogmen seem to have variations in the amount of digits that they have on their feet. So I think yes. What I think is, of course, a very common sort of theory on the abominable is that it's just they're going to go up from the forested areas where they're going to have farms from the people native there, and they're going to use that walkway to sort of traverse areas and then come back down. And of course, on snow, anything sort of dark like this really going to stick out. So you're going to encounter them a lot more on their pathways, like they would do here with the Appalachian trails. They're going to take advantage of, or the power lines. They're going to take advantage of these these greenways, these easy access points that cover large distances. So once they've sort of, predated on all the deer in one area and they sort of depleted that resource, they're going to move on to another one. And it's during that I think you're going to encounter things, but I think you're dealing with over there in Nepal and stuff like that, their type of Bigfoot. And you're just seeing them come up from the farms, traversing and then coming back down. So it's the same, to me, my mind would say it's the same sort of animal. Snow can do funny things. You can take a small little squirrel print and give it a couple days to melt and it's going to look huge. So snow prints can be awesome because they're detailed, but they can expand and give you a sort of a false reading. We've experimented with this on video.
Wow, very cool. Interesting. Right. Well, before you mentioned something called the Puck Wedgie. What is a Puck Wedgie?
The Puck Wedgies are they're real interesting. I know Nicholas Robert Grossman's he's asked me to go with him. And I just found some really nice stuff online on them. So some people have some really good stories on Netflix as a documentary, and I'll get that to you.
Please, I'd like to see that.
It's really informative. They are kind of like I talked about the Fiji Hobbit. They're sort of hominids that are small in stature, 3 to 4 feet. The European experience would call them gnomes and elves and whatnot. But I think what you're dealing with is, again, a population of hominids that have seen the rise of man and his technology and deforestation and all of that. And even before the white man, the tribes around here, their relationship with their Puck Wedgies go back that they are sort of forest people, and they can be very mischievous, but they can leave you a lot of gifts and be very kind to you. They can do some healing and they have supernatural abilities. I personally don't need that because I think just the ability to hide from man gives you that sort of supernatural aura about yourself that you are able to evade. You're aware of me, but I don't have any evidence of you. And that's unsettling. And I talked about that earlier. That's unsettling to humans to think that you're sort of outwitted, and you are. You are. They've been here in the Northeast. They have a presence all the way up into the Great Lakes. And it's funny, here in the Northeast, the closer you get to the ocean, the more there was like, and this is common, there was like a falling out with the Pucks and the tribes. And then all sorts of mischievous stuff happened. The Pucks didn't like where the tribes were going. This is pre-Western civilization. But the further you look into those folklore stories on getting up to the Great Lakes, their relationships seem to sort of remain, very, very symbiotic and very beneficial to both beings, the humans and the Pucks. Pucks are little forest people, and they seem to have like porcupine quills. I love these guys, porcupine quills, and they use hides of like squirrels and groundhogs and things like that. So you have to miniaturize yourself and put yourself sort of in their 2 foot place. And you definitely, you want to be highly respectful of the Pucks. They can mess up your world real quick. We leave gifts for them. We leave sweets and pennies, copper. Copper is a great thing to give as a gift. It's got antibacterial properties. It's a noble metal. Gold, silver, and copper, they occur in their metallic state in nature. They can be bent easily. They can be fashioned into tools and all sorts of things. So yeah, everybody has them. It's a great gift to leave. So Pucks are awesome. I've been studying Pucks, and people told me, oh yeah, well, there's some connection with Harry Potter. And I was like, oh, don't tell me that. Jeez. I was fine until you told me that, I don't need that. No offense to that, but they tend to mess it all up. You're doing some real research and all of a sudden I'm dealing with Harry Potter, Yeah.
Just ruined it for me too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Rich. You see where I'm going with this? Yeah, but Nicholas Robert Grossman, we both love him dearly. He's gonna, maybe we'll all go out there.
Yes. I'm really good friends with him as well. So I know that he would not mind me going because we talk about things like this. He actually invited me into a couple of his ghost paranormal trips and things like that and doing investigations. So if you do go, let me know. I'd love to be a part of that because I find it all fascinating.
I owe it to him. So maybe we go on up to, maybe Mount Frizzell or up into the higher Bear Mountain. We haven't been there yet investigating, but that I would imagine would be a really, nice place to look for Pucks. And it's the kind of thing, it's kind of like the Meriden, the Black Dog of Meriden. You want to investigate it, but you kind of like aware of the folklore, like, oh well, what happens if I do encounter this thing? Be curious.
Well, that is a perfect segue because I want to talk about that. You mentioned Meriden before, and I want to talk about the Black Dog of Meriden because you've had some experiences with the Black Dog, but let's talk about the folklore first. If you see it 3 times, what happens? There's one time, I think you feel joy.
Yeah.
Second time is sadness.
Yeah.
Third time, death.
Yes.
Okay.
That's pretty grim. It's first time, you were right on the money. First time for joy, second time for sorrow, third time for death. And this has been documented. Meriden Mountain is the highest point of land on the East Coast, from anywhere within 25 miles of the ocean. Is the highest point of land on the entire East Coast, all the way up from Canada to Florida. It just rises up out of the sort of flatness of the valley below. We look at it very modern, with our highways and stuff, but you drive by it, stop for a minute, look at the thing, it just sort of rises up. It's just there, and there it is, and there's nothing else like it. And it's not like it's in the Taconic mountain range where here I am, and I got all that Mohawk Mountain. It's rivers, the Connecticut River is not too far from this. Not really mountainous. You can see another state park of sleeping giants right there, but it's unusual. So geologically, it's unusual, very strange. And you go and then you put a castle on top of it. That castle was dedicated, and I forget the exact date, but it was dedicated on October 29th. So I asked the Meriden historian about this, Jason Piccirillo. Wow, 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 wow. Talk about a guy. He gave me a lot more information than I think he wanted to. He didn't see any correlation. And I'm like, I don't know, why would you, as a construction worker, to have on a hill, to have it done at the end of October? Wouldn't you want it done before then? Sort of, Anyhow, it's just one of the strange things. There's a spring there that they have, what they call it, like eternal ice. And the only thing I could wrap my mind around, this ice just doesn't unfreeze. And it's just, no matter what time of the year it is, this spring is just frozen over. And I was just like, what the heck could that be? And the only thing I could wrap my mind around is that's dry ice. And they had no way to sort of explain it, but that's dry ice. You wrap up dry ice, it's going to last. You wrap it in newspaper, it's going to last a while, especially a big chunk of it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have really had the technology back in the 1800s. Maybe they did, but it sort of definitely would have been some exotic thing. So dry ice would have, it occurs there. Let's just assume that's the closest thing to it. Dry ice occurs there. When we went there, we encountered so many black animals that we started to develop our own sort of shape-shifting theory. There's a lot to it, so I'm sure you want to ask some questions.
Well, yeah, no, I will. I wanted to get into the shape shifting after, but I want to stick with the black dog. According to folklore, around what time did people start seeing this dog? Was it in the 1800s?
Yeah, so I just like you, I wanted to find out, was there some sort of Native American folklore? Because that's great when you can sort of, you got the sort of first people's cultural experience with that, and then you can sort of overlay that with, the modern experiences, but there is none of that. It just sort of appears, and there it is. It's sort of this formed legend, and it's still ongoing, and obscure as the day is long. Every time I go up there and ask people about it on the mountain, none of them ever heard of it.
Yeah, sure. It was almost like when I was trying to find Dudleytown. I was in Cornwall. Oh, I never heard of it. I'm relatively new to the area. I've just been living here for 25 years, but nobody wanted to tell me anything because they didn't want me to go there. No, I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, okay, sure you don't. So I think people just try to deter you from that, or they just don't want, like, once again, they don't want you to think that they're crazy. But right. I know a lot. I mean, I've heard about this story for years. Did you ever have any encounters with the infamous black dog?
I did. Makes it hard to investigate. When I was in my 20s, and I'm like Yoda now, when 900 years old you are, you won't look so good, right? So I'm sort of there, so in my 20s, way back in the Jurassic period, I was as I am today, but of course in my youth I was an avid hiker, and I lived in Meriden. I became a Mason, a Freemason in Meriden. One of the great joys of my life. So I hiked there extensively, and I had a friend with me, a fella named Rich. I won't say his last name. Fella named Rich, and we're hiking along the cliffs of Mount Misery there. And all those mountains, Black Mountain, Mount Misery, Mount Lamentation, hanging cliffs. It's all this sadness, just sadness layered upon layers of sadness. It's just crazy. But we were hiking one day, just way out, way out. I mean, those cliffs they go for miles. It's pretty extensive. And well, I forget, where exactly on the mountain we were. but there was this dog that just kept following us, and it isn't like a dog, like black dog, like you see our logo here, right, with the black dog with the sort of red eyes. No, he's this friendly little fella. He's like a terrier or something, like a like a cocker spaniel or something, but mostly dark, right? Dark with some brown, just not unusual. Sort of a happy looking guy, wagging the whole tail and everything, but there's no footprints, there's no barking. Even if he barks, you don't hear anything. He'll just appear and reappear, and he kept doing that. We would be hiking along, and he'd just sort of disappear. He'd lay ahead of us, and just wouldn't be there, and then like quarter mile down the hike, there he would just be already looking at us, like this dog is like interacting with you, like it was like your dog, right?
Yeah.
It's like he was just very familiar, and you're like trying to talk to this dog, see if it's got some kind of collar, like where's this dog's owner. But the myth to me, and I tried to get the Meriden historian to sort of talk about this, but I think it's real interesting, the relationship between Mr. Hubbard, which the Hubbard Park is named after, and he was the one that set the park aside and built the tower, and the stories of the Leatherman.
Yes.
Now, I can't help but wonder if the Leatherman had a dog. And why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't this guy that travels this loop to like this mathematical precision? He was really crazy about when he would arrive in a place. It had to be the same time all the time. It was like had a whole Tesla thing going on with that.
Yeah.
Did he have a dog? And none of the pictures I ever had, nobody seems to relate to that. And so I wonder, well, did Mr. Hubbard have a dog? And there was nothing there. This is a gem of Connecticut cryptozoology. And I don't even know if you can properly classify the black dog of Meriden as a cryptid. So there are some geologists moving ahead here. We don't know where this comes from. These geologists from Yale love to hike those cliffs. They're just very unusual cliffs. And at the time, you go back. So you're not going to drive, cross country or something like that. You're going to go check out your local geologist. You're a geologist. You're going to go hang out on some rocks, right? It's like I go to some crazy wildlife refuge that nobody goes to and get ticks all over me. It's what I do. So these guys are there, and they had encounters. One guy saw it before and told his friend about this. Now the legend was already out. They are aware of this legend. He describes one to the other, I forget their names, about seeing the dog. And he decides that, well, they're going to go, and he, having seen it once, he's going to go anyway. He's a professor. He's like the guys on Plummet Island. What can possibly go wrong here? How can this end up bad? Well, the one guy, now he sees him, they see him again. And so it's one person's first encounter, and it's another person's second encounter. Well, the second guy, has this accident where he sort of breaks his leg and stuff like that. So it didn't end well for him. I don't know if it was joyful for the first fellow. I'm guessing probably not, with his knucklehead buddy. He's got a busted leg now. And it's the 1800s. He's got to drag him down. Believe me, I've hiked that in the summer. It's a hot, dry, hard hike. So there it is. Let's just focus on the second guy. The second guy's encounter ended in sorrow. You get a busted leg back in the day, that's going to stick with you. They're not going to have the medical technology we have today. So they're going to bring out a freaking syringe and hit you with that. The thing's like the size of a caulk gun. They're just going to come at you, right?
Gangrene's going to set in. Yeah, it's just.
Oh yeah, you're going to saw the leg off. It's not going to be pretty. Throw it in the freaking pile with the other legs.
Feed it to Bigfoot.
You got it. Right. Exactly. Feed it to Bigfoot. Feed this guy's leg to Bigfoot. So Knucklehead Professor, they decide they're going to redo this trip, right? They're going to go and do this again. What could go wrong again?
Of course, nothing.
Right, nothing. So the one guy's seen him twice. He's gonna go. The other guy has seen it once. He's gonna go. Like at the very least, let's just follow the folklore. One guy's gonna die, and the other one's gonna end up sour. Well, sure enough, they're up on this cliff, and this is all. Have you been up there?
Oh yeah.
All right, so it's all trap rock. It's this stuff you don't want to really linger on those cliffs. I mean, it's like Balf Quarry in Newington. You shatter those rocks, and they just want to fall away. I mean, that's just what they're going to do. Ultimately, they're going to all fall away. So the one guy falls, and he says they're there. They're going to do this. Nothing's going to go wrong. They're going to go hiking, and they're over there by a mini island, which is creepy in its own right. Not mini island, a little island on Mirror Lake. I'm sorry, the Mirror Reservoir over there, underneath the cliffs. They're gonna do this hike again, and they're up on a cliff face, and the whole cliff face falls away. One guy dies, the other guy's like injured, like life-threatening injuries, and you know, it just ends sort of the narratives and the histories just sort of end there where the one guy died and the other guy is really bummed out. No, the other guy decides he's gonna go back and honor his friend's memory like 10 years later, and sure enough, they found him dead at the bottom of the cliffs.
What can possibly go wrong the third time?
Nothing can go wrong. So this is probably the most famous narrative.
Oh my God.
Two geology professors there from Yale, and they both ended up dead in Meriden Mountain. We were there doing an investigation, and did you see the Meriden video? So we ended up leaving. We decided that if you don't want any trouble, for my own good, I'm like, what can I do to sort of protect myself from this guy? I've seen him once. I want to sort of see him again, and I don't. So I'm like, all right. It's a dog. I've seen him. I know this guy, right? He's not going to kill you. The cliff is going to kill you. He's just going to talk to the rocks, and they're going to fall away. So I decided leave 3 dog biscuits for him, and you won't have a problem. And we've been doing that every time we go back, and haven't had a problem or an encounter with a dog.
When I'm wondering, because I know you said you saw it in your 20s, which is did you have a dog with you? Because I know you bring your dog in for most of your investigations now. I wonder if you had a dog, if the dog would actually see it, or if it was more of an apparition type thing. Because you're saying that it doesn't bark, it doesn't really do anything. So I wonder if the dog would sense it and see the dog.
Not long after my encounter, ended up adopting a dog, a very large black dog. But I did not have one with me. But going back to when we were there investigating, and I don't know, I'm going to follow up. It's interesting. I'll get into some more stuff with dogs there just before I finish. But we were there doing an investigation, and we left the dog biscuits. 1 week later, to the day, a young lady's there in the spot that we left the 3 dog biscuits, exactly at the spot. She fell off the cliff. This was exactly 1 week after we were there. She fell. She has severe physical injuries, brain damage. She cannot speak properly. She's incoherent. And God bless her. I mean, I don't know if she encountered anything like that or not. I just know, wow, you know, you fell sort of like right where we left our gift, where we gifted. And it's very sad, very tragic. And you could just go, this very recent history. We followed up on it, and to see that, you know, did she die, or she didn't die, but she's not a happy camper.
I just hope she didn't slip on the dog biscuits.
Well, now I feel really bad. I'm going to Velcro my dog biscuits or leave them in a different, maybe a little off the cliffs a little bit. I left them right at the flagpole by the castle over there. That's right there where I left them.
Yep.
That's unfortunately where she fell.
Yeah, I used to go there all the time. I used to do that walk. I haven't been there in a while. And I tried, like you, I like to investigate and do different areas. And the last time I went there, I ended up in some guy's backyard in Southington. Like, where's this trail going? I just kept on walking and walking. And I said, wait, where am I? And I didn't realize I was already all the way down in Southington. But yeah, I love that route. I love that trail, but I personally never encountered anything like that. But I do know all the stories about that. And it's so interesting. So far you've seen it once. You've never encountered it again. So you never felt the sorrow yet.
I didn't encounter it in a dog form.
Oh, good. Oh, wait, let's talk.
During our investigation, we have video of this. It's very creepy. So on the way up, we found a little piece of paper, like a note in a bottle, and it said God's message. And it was this sort of prayer. And I was, at the end, I'm like, well, God's message is in an anisette bottle and it stinks. That put it down. A little bit up from that, we encountered some solid black butterflies that weren't swallowtails. They didn't have any other markings other than just solid black wings. I can't seem to find these guys. Then a little bit up from that, we encountered a 5.5 foot eastern rat snake, which is solid black.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it. My dog didn't see it. The camera person did. We got a really nice footage of that guy. And up on top of the cliffs, we encountered, which are quite common, black vultures up there. And we're starting to wonder if during our investigations, you aren't dealing with a shapeshifter, an animal that can change its shape at will, and maybe given particular circumstances might not want to appear to you in the canine form. That might be a really bad manifestation of what this mountain is sort of generating with its just unusual geology.
Yeah.
It's just really strange there. There's a place there called Dog Misery Swamp,
Mm-hmm.
where dogs have gone missing since colonial times, and that's how it got its name. So there's a long association of sadness and dogs there. I mean, Dog Misery Swamp.
Wow. Now, where is that on the trail?
So that would be where you would pass it as you're going to the Connecticut State Police Memorial.
Okay.
Then you would pass through Dog Misery Swamp as you approach that. It would be the thickets and the gnarly, squatchy looking area over there. And by the way, that area is very squatchy, very, very squatchy. It's right up there with the northwest corner.
Yep. What is it on the squatchometer?
What do we give Meriden on the squatchometer?
Wow, almost a 5.
I think like a 4.8.
Oh, wow.
Or like a 4.9. It was really high.
I love that. Well, I know you said Black Rock State Park was a 4.9 in the squatchometer. So that's right up there with that.
It is right up there with that. We've done, according to the camera person here, 3 videos we've done just on Meriden. We're still developing something. I'll share with you. And you heard it here. This is a CCIS innovation I'm sharing with you.
I love it.
So I know the whole world's going to hear about it, so don't tell anybody.
Secret safe with me.
I think it's we.
From the frenetic mind of author Rich Sear. 5 terrifying short stories, now available in one collection. Confessions of a Frenetic Mind. 5 tales of blood-curdling terror, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
All of a sudden I hear, brim, brim.
What's a diaphragm again?
Ha! We caught one.
They're supposed to be weird.
Oh, yeah, no. If you say so.
I've always wanted to be in a movie.